Hey y'all! Today we're making a classic Creole and Cajun side dish for Easter dinner or any spring and summer dinner really. Oysters and rice dressing. During the springtime, oysters and rice dressing hits the spot and gives you an alternative to the bread-based dressings we are so fond of eating during the Christmas and Thanksgiving holidays. So let's get started on our Gulf oysters and rice dressing. These are fresh shucked Gulf oysters. Use a sieve to separate the oysters from the oyster liquor. Look through the oysters to make sure there are no shells or rocks or any sort of debris. If you find any, remove and discard. Then we need to sort the oysters for size. These are a mix of medium and large oysters. We want the oysters to cook evenly, so I cut the larger oysters in half so that all of the oysters are essentially the same size. When cutting, be gentle because oysters are really delicate and they tend to tear if your knife is not sharp. Once the oysters are sorted, we season the oysters with our Mrs. Clotilde's Creole seasoning. Mrs. Clotilde's is an all-purpose, low-sodium, well-balanced seasoning that can be used to season just about anything. Once the oysters are tossed in the seasoning, cover and refrigerate until ready to use. Next, we measure the oyster liquor and add additional water to make the total amount needed for this recipe. Ingredients, measurements, and links to seasoning, if you're interested, will be in the description box. We use CHAURICE sausage to add spice to our dressing. CHAURICE is known as a Creole sausage, similar to how andouille is considered a Cajun sausage. Just like andouille is used in Creole cooking, CHAURICE is also used in Cajun cooking. CHAURICE is a spicy pork sausage that some say is a descendant of Spanish chorizo. You can see how red the interior is. Red equals spice, and you only need a little to get the job done. If you're unable to locate CHAURICE in your area, chorizo is an acceptable substitute. Remove the sausage from the casing before using. Just use a knife to slit the skin and remove the fresh sausage. The preparation of our oyster and rice dressing begins with melting some salted butter over medium heat in your skillet or Dutch oven. Once the butter is melted and begins to shimmer, add the CHAURICE and cook until the sausage begins to brown. This is such a small amount that we don't have to worry too much about fat release. We also want some fat to make sure our rice granules don't clump. Once the sausage begins to brown, we're going to add some chopped shallot. Shallot brings both onion and garlic flavor to this dish. Some bell pepper, a combination of sweet and savory bell peppers. And some celery. Season with a bit of additional Creole seasoning. Once our sausage is browned and our veggies have softened, we add some white long grain rice that we've washed and allowed to dry. It is important that the rice is washed and dried before using. Just wash it in a sieve, pour it into a bowl, and just let it air dry. Stir the rice into the sausage and veggie mixture. Spread as evenly as possible and allow to cook for roughly 3 to 5 minutes. Once our rice has simmered and absorbed some of the spicy goodness in our skillet, we add our oyster liquor to the dressing mixture. We also add some Worcestershire sauce, fresh thyme leaves, and a final bit of Creole seasoning, and we want to stir to combine. Finally, we mix in a bit of salt. We added a good bit of rice, and Mrs. Clotilde's is low sodium, so you're going to have to add some salt to this dish. If you're using a seasoning that is salt heavy, you may not need to add additional salt. Mix the salt thoroughly into the dressing. Bring to a simmer. Once you see those first bubbles, cover and allow to cook without taking the top off for 12 to 15 minutes. Resist peeking. Resist removing the top. This is a very important step. And after the 15 minutes, this is exactly what you're looking for. The rice has absorbed most of the liquid and is well on its way. Stir well at this time. And then we're going to add a bit of fresh parsley and some green onion tops. Once everything is combined, you want to cover and allow to cook for an additional 5 minutes. You're going to repeat this step until the rice is the consistency you want. Now, Creole rice dressing is a bit moist, but if you want a major Cajun flair, then you cook the rice until it's a bit drier. And once the rice is where you like it consistency-wise, then you're going to lay the seasoned oysters across the top of the rice. Once the oysters are in place, cover and allow to steam for roughly 3 minutes undisturbed. Then you want to carefully mix the oysters into the dressing. Recover and remove the dressing from the heat. You're going to allow the residual heat to finish cooking the oysters. You don't want overcooked oysters in your dressing, though. Overcooked oysters are like rubber. And there you have it, oysters and rice dressing. If you enjoyed this video, please like and consider subscribing. We'd love to have you as a part of our Creole and Cajun cooking community. Ingredients and measurements can be found in the description box. And remember, when you mix a little bit of Creole with a little bit of Cajun, that's good eating. See y'all next time.